The Owl House. I got so many requests from my fans, friends, followers, and even my girlfriend to review this show, as it got critical praise, particularly for the LGBT representation in the show. I hinted that I was going to review it after I kept hearing how amazing it was, but I never really got around to it. I finally did, and I have to say that I really loved this show. I ended up liking it far more than I thought I was going to. It also ended up being a show that is pretty much perfect in my eyes, as I did not detect a single plot hole or continuity error. Just shows you how well written it is. The basic premise is that a teenage Dominican-American girl named Luz Noceda accidentally stumbles upon the Demon Realm, containing the Boiling Isles, an archipelago formed from the remains of a dead titan, and she befriends Ida Clawthorne, the Owl Lady, and her adorable demon housemate, King. Despite not having any magical abilities herself, Luz ends up staying in the Boiling Isles, and decides to pursue her dream of becoming a witch by serving as Ida's apprentice in the Owl House, and she ultimately finds a new family in this unlikely setting. Season 2 centers around the main characters helping Luz get back to the human realm from the events at the end of the first season, as well as helping Ida combat her curse and searching for the truth about King's past, while contending with the evil Emperor Belos and his minions in the Emperor's Coven, who are preparing for a big day of unity. More on that later. The premise is amazing, as the trope of having someone enter a different realm that consists of magic is pretty common. Hell, the TV tropes would describe magical lands like these as having some sort of non-human species, having monarchies, and would feature magic of any kind, that they can be traveled to via an entrance, like a mysterious gate, down a rabbit hole, or inside a wardrobe. However, this show takes a unique approach, through Luz entering this realm via a magic door inside a decrepit old house somewhere in the woods. From here, the premise sets up our main story. This review is going to discuss 8 different things in about 15 minutes at least, or 20 minutes at most, as I won't go too much into spoiler territory for 3/4 of the video. We'll discuss the story, world building, animation, characters, LGBT representation, emotion and comedy, and finally, what I expect of Season 3 after Season 2's ending. I know that this sounds like a lot, but trust me, I'll get through all of it in a simple video, I promise. The story of the Owl House is intriguing, as Season 1 centers around Luz training to become a witch under Ida's apprentice, after stumbling upon the Owl House and going on an adventure with Ida to get King's crown back. The story is episodic, as there are various moments where it switches to different plots amazingly well. On one plot, it could focus on Luz going on simple adventures while training to use her magic. With another, it could focus on Amity and what her deal is. The third could revolve around Ida's curse that you find out about in episode 4. The best part of the story is that it knows how to balance out each section beautifully so that they don't crash into each other or bring each section to a grinding halt. While something like Star vs. the Forces of Evil has times where a subplot, romance, or filler gets in the way of the story and brings the suspense down to fill shipping drama or waste time on something that isn't needed, the Owl House manages to make all the plots flow perfectly, happen when they need to, and are important to the overall interaction of the characters, on top of enhancing the story to where it's coherent and focused. There was not a single second where I complained about the show focusing on one specific subplot or focusing too little on the other. Every single time I thought, what's happening with Amity after a specific episode, Dana would plan so well that the question would be answered in the episode after that. Hell, sometimes these stories were written so well that a simple adventure about body swapping in episode 11 could have elements of one subplot story surrounding Ida's curse and the Emperor's Coven coming after her, while also moving on to Amity's bits in episode 12. Every episode's plot works so well that I can follow along easily even if they tell different subplot stories per episode. Meanwhile, Season 2 is a lot more linear and ongoing in storytelling. If you miss out on one episode, you could be missing a bit of information in regards to the story. I'm not going to give away a lot of Season 2's story as I want people to go watch the series for themselves, but I can say that the story has more mystery in each of the subplots, and once again is balanced perfectly as I got an answer to each question the next episode, Once I wondered where one subplot was going to go, or where the other one was going to go. Season 2 is incredibly focused on setting up the attempts Luz has in trying to get back home, everyone else helping her to get back home, finding out what and who King is, taming Ida's curse, and the mystery behind who Emperor Belos is, on top of what his plans are in regards to the Day of Unity. Both seasons are amazing in keeping the tone focused, able to switch from emotional and heavy in one scene to lighthearted and funny or charming without it feeling jarring. Both seasons are also logically sound. There was not a single minute where I was thinking that something doesn't make sense to the world we're focused on. Lastly, both seasons are amazing at keeping the character behavior consistent until character development is needed to show that a specific character has more depth than they show. For those reasons, the story is completely amazing, with little to no flaws whatsoever. The world building in Owl House is far better than most animated shows, as it shows how unique of a landscape the Boiling Isles are, while also showing how our main character and this world operates. The sight gags in each episode and the visual look in each episode beautifully convey the environment. Anytime that I saw something odd in the world inhabited, I was left wondering how it worked. Bonesborough as a whole looks incredibly big, and like a village, almost inspired by medieval times. It can be creepy at times, while also looking beautiful. The Knee is incredibly snowy and has a lot of damp caves, and the detail is so beautiful to see. Hexside has the elements of a typical school, while also having a student-eating detention pit and including different covens of magic for students to learn. The Emperor's Coven, the Abomination Coven, the Bard Coven, the Beast-Keeping Coven, the Construction Coven, the Healing Coven, the Illusionist Coven, the Oracle Coven, the Plant Coven, and the Potions Coven. All of these covens are beautifully designed, and are all interesting types of magic to practice. And it reminds me of a game I played in my childhood. The game was called Wizard 101. It was a game where you were a customizable wizard with a customizable name and a customizable look. Once you created the wizard, you got to choose your magic class. The classes were split up into elemental magic, spiritual magic, and balance magic. The elemental magic included fire, ice, and storm, respectively. The spiritual magic included life, death, and myth, respectively. And the balancing magic was balance, duh. You got to travel to different worlds, and when you got to Celestia, you got to learn astral magic, star, sun, and moon magic respectively. Going further into the game, you got to learn shadow magic too, you get my point. The environment is amazing, so much so that even when Luz and Amity travel into Willow's mind, the environment was detailed to Willow's personality and coven, decorated with trees and flowers, and pictures. The backgrounds are also amazingly detailed, with the sparkling waters, the twinkling stars, the balanced and styled colors, and more. I kept praising the environment throughout the entire show because it's unique and eye-catching, and it's animated beautifully. Speaking of which, the animation in the show is beautifully smooth and had a wide range of colors. There were plenty of beautiful shots in the show. The soonest I saw something beautiful that made me awestruck was Season 1, Episode 2, with the shooting star at the end of the episode. Episode 12 of Season 1 also had the most beautiful shots of falling snow, the twinkling stars, the crystallized ice that Luz makes, and the background of the owl house at night, near the end of the episode when they go home. One of the most important parts of animation is the effect of appeal. Something looking beautiful while also being unique to the creator and animator. The appeal of the show draws me in every single time. While Season 1 had beautiful shots and amazing choreography, especially in Episode 16, Season 2 brought the appeal to 100, as the most beautiful look and awe-inspiring animation came from episodes like Clouds on the Horizon, Them's the Breaks Kid, Reaching Out, and especially Knock Knock Knockin' on Hootie's Door. That episode was an example of making a beautiful subplot story that all comes together at the end. And Ida's Dream section has a beautiful landscape, with vibrant colors that are easy on the eyes, bringing out the dreamlike experience compared to the darkened nightmare of dealing with the worst part of the curse. There were multiple different times that I was praising the animation beyond recognition, and it's by far some of the best animations I've seen in recent years. It holds up to this day. Unlike the animation and the world building where you'd have to watch the show to fully understand what I'm talking about, I can easily explain the characters and how they're amazing. Luz is the best main character in a Disney project that I have seen. I found Luz amazing, as she's charming, funny, intelligent, open, closed, relatable, and likable. The best part about Luz is that she's both a larger-than-life screw-up while also being a mentor to the other characters. There were so many times that Luz makes a mistake believably, and I didn't get frustrated or pissed or think that Luz is dumb because the plot demands it. For example, in episode 12 of season 1, Luz is afraid that she'll be put in the baby class at Hexside because Hexside requires their students to conjure 2 spells. As a result, Luz takes Amity's training wand to conjure the spells because she believed Ida's training was going too slow. The mistakes are justifiable and Luz learns her lesson. While in episode 11 of season 1, Luz and King enter a contest about writing a book. Despite their amazing teamwork, King lets the idea that his ideas are better than Luz's get to his head, and it only inflates with the book he made. In the end, he realizes that he let the fame go to his head so much that he hurts her, and he apologizes. This is one of many moments in which Luz portrays the perfect main character. They're not a Mary Sue, and they're not a constant screw-up or dumb. Every single character is amazing, as King looks like someone who could have been entirely a comic relief character, and yet there's so much more to him. I'm not going to reveal what he is or who he is because that'd spoil the fun. Ida is the rebellious, free-spirited mother figure of Luz. Willow is the shy, insecure girl who was bullied for her terrible record in the Abomination Coven, but goes to a confident, level-headed girl with the Plant Coven. Gus is the illusionist coven expert who was obsessed with humans, and I could go on for a long time, but I'm not because I want to keep the video as short as possible. Amity was the most interesting to me, as she went from a stuck-up bully and a jerk to someone who's kinder, more supportive, and finally figuring out who she is. I remember when Rebecca from the channel Star Giant Productions said in her top best animations of 2020 video that she didn't like Amity because she was boring. To some extent, I understand, as there wasn't much to Amity that made her distinguishable from everyone else besides being a stuck-up jerk. However, I'd argue that at those moments, Amity wasn't exactly herself, as a lot of the bullying she did is because of her parents being rich, and they had to protect their brand and name. And Amity started to feel happier and become the person she wants to be and is meant to be. It's like a journey for her, as Amity's a lot better at the end of season 1 and the rest of season 2. She had to find herself. Rebecca also states if Amity was a lesbian towards Luz, then the show needed to have them kiss and express that. I understand that too, but at the same time, I wouldn't want the build-up to a relationship to be forced in any way whatsoever. I'd want Amity and Luz to actually develop feelings for each other from interactions. She also says that teasing is not representation, which is true. However, I and many others don't exactly see this as teasing and more like revealing. Luz and Amity are definitely the frenemy romance type that goes from enemies to friends to lovers, a common trope seen in many pieces of media. Anyway, on to the next one. This one is definitely going to be brief, as I do not want to overstep my boundaries with information I may not know. However, I'm going to talk about this since it is an important element to the show. Speed Force Spectre said that representation matters, and that is true. However, good representation comes from how the characters are portrayed. After all, you can't spell representation without represent, which means be entitled or appointed to act or speak for someone. The point of representation is to represent the person or group that is being portrayed. If they're portrayed in the same way that a realistic LGBT person acts, then the show portrayed the representation amazingly well. If they're portrayed unrealistically or entirely stereotypical, then the show portrayed the representation poorly. The LGBT representation in the show is portrayed entirely realistically, as Luz and Amity behave in the same ways we would. They're supportive, they're cute, they're understanding, they're caring. It's portrayed beautifully, while making it to where it's not cringy, awkward, or stupid. The couple talk like real people and have real conversations and real worries, while also having their affectionate moments like a typical couple. Now, representation can vary. With people with autism, representation can be portrayed in an infinite number of ways, since anyone and everyone can have autism, and every case of autism in everyone is different. With LGBT representation, the most important thing to portray is that the couple love each other in the same way a straight couple would. Simple as that. The LGBT representation portion of the show could go on so long that it could be talked about in its own separate video. But for now, we must move on. For me, emotion and character development are the best tools to get me attached to the media and consider it amazing. The stronger the emotion, the more I feel for the characters, the story, and when it all ends. The stronger the character development and the more logically sound the journey of our characters is, the more I will have a strong attachment to them. A good majority of the time, emotion and character development coincided with each other. The emotion was done well, as I would awe and feel bad or good for characters based on what happened to them, how they felt, or even specific traditions. In Season 2, there's an episode in which Amity engages in an underground duel, and Luce is helping Amity, but not entirely for the reason you think. See, Luce is helping Amity because she wants something to distract her from dealing with a notification on her phone talking about an anniversary. After the jig is up, and Luce is talking to Amity all about it, we find out what the notification is about. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because that would spoil the emotion, but it is quite sad. The emotion is done well because it's relatable in some way and everyone can get it. You'll have to watch those emotional moments throughout the series to see what I'm talking about, as so many emotional moments hit harder when you watch it for yourself and not have someone tell you about it. As for the comedy, I've talked about it on my Instagram, but in Season 2, 2 funny moments left me in stitches. One of them was Luce, Lilith, and King asking Hootie to come with them to the island where they would find out about King's past. And Hootie, rips himself out of the door since he's part of the Owl House. We don't see him do it, but they do. Luce's dry heaving and then gagging gets me every time. The other is in the episode where Ida and Lilith's mother comes back into their life, and Ida shoves her off, to which Lilith and Luce give the funniest faces ever. The comedy is well timed and works well. There wasn't a single joke that didn't make me laugh at least once. Once again, you'll have to go watch those comedic moments yourself, as everyone has a different reaction to comedy across the show. And now we can finally get to what I expect for Season 3. Here's where I start spoiling things. Keep this in mind, this is being written without seeing the Season 3 premiere, but knowing the beginning from the Comic-Con footage. This is a serious spoiler warning for those that haven't seen Seasons 1 and 2. So, I'm going to do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this! Season 2 ends with figuring out that, last chance, King is a Titan. He's the son of the big Titan that has been talked about repeatedly. Luce would find that a man named Philip Whittabane, a human from the early 17th or 18th century, who stumbled upon the demon realm and searched for methods to get back home, that Luce helped in search for answers about how to get home herself, is Emperor Belos himself. This twist isn't the strongest, because if you paid attention to the dialogue like I did, you'd figure out that as Belos said that he wants to get back home, but doesn't want to rule it, as well as listening to Belos' voice and Philip's voice together. They'd also find that the Day of Unity is actually a day in which every single witch in a coven would have their magic drained. There's also this being, the Collector, who is a powerful being stored in an amulet by King's father, that gets free thanks to King, as he wants to help stop the draining spell after Belos betrays the Collector. The Collector starts deconstructing the Boiling Isles to play a game of Owl House. King would sacrifice himself to get Luce, Amity, Willow, Gus, and a character exclusive to Season 2, named Hunter, to safety in Luce's homeworld. Part of Belos, in his Palisman monstrous form, also goes with them unknowingly. They see Luce's mom, and the episode ends. People had questions, in Season 3's Comic-Con footage would answer a few questions. Luce and her mom hug it out, and her friends help Camila. Luce and Hunter worry about the information they know and what they'll tell their friends. They go through vigorous months in which they're trying to build a portal back to the demon realm. Luce and Amity would come out to Camila, and she'd be supportive. Everyone would get new clothes. All that happens in 6 minutes, and was perfect. Giving the characters a time jump when the season had a time jump was a genius move on Dana's part. As for my expectations, all I'd want is for Dana to pace the ending well, the animation to be fluid and beautiful, a happy reunion, a satisfying conclusion, beautiful chemistry, and hopefully, no main character deaths. Of course, I'm not entirely expecting this to be the prediction, and I have no idea what to expect going into Season 3, but I can't wait. I want to thank Dana Terrace and their team for an amazing show that gave much more than it needed to, and helped people through so much, while also entertaining them on top of it. Dana, thank you for making a show that would be one of the many things that bring me and my girlfriend closer together. I could go on for a long time about how much I love this show and how much it's helped me in many ways on top of entertaining me in its own beautiful way, but I've already gone on for about 25 minutes or more, so I'll be going to react to the Season 3 premiere and talk about the rest in my Season 3 review sometime soon.